Good afternoon. Welcome to day 2 of MUC on Seoul 2024. We are starting today, thank you very much, with a really interesting topic of building new revenue opportunities around your IP. Most people are aware of 2 main ways to monetize music: selling it and performing it live. The thing is, the value of selling music has gone down considerably over the years, and the cost of touring has gone up. The good news is that there are many other ways for you to monetize your IP, and today we have 3 global industry experts joining me on stage to discuss just that. Let's please welcome to stage Ryan, Ben, and Nobu. Wonderful. I'd like to begin this panel by asking each of you to introduce yourselves, because you'll do a much better job of that than I will, as well as share a pivotal moment in your career. So Ryan, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Farley from Cooking Vinyl Publishing, based out of London. Thanks for coming, and just want to say thanks to Priya and Gig Live Pro and Coca and MUCON and the Grand Hyatt for having us. You've been great hosts so far. Pivotal moment for me, I could go back to when I got my first job. That was quite good. But in my career, probably early on, making my first signing when I was a scout at Warner Chappell Publishing in London, and I've been in the job for about a year, and I had a couple of sort of close calls, but didn't quite get the deal over the line, and then finally got a deal to happen, and it was an artist called, or a writer, producer called Star Smith, who was working with an artist called Ellie Goulding, and it was just before her first album came out, and it kind of set me on my path. So yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Ben, over to you.
Hello everyone, I'm Ben Dennis from Mushroom Group, and we are a entertainment company in Australia with 6 different verticals. When I think about my kind of career-defining moments, I kind of break my career into music management phase and then corporate phase, which is where I am right now. I think the music management phase, I'll never forget taking a band I managed, Peking Duck, to Splendour in the Grass, and we'd been working quite hard with a team of essentially 3 people up until that moment. And the defining moment for me was growing that team enough to be able to step off stage and watch the show from front of house for the first ever time. That felt pretty special. See all the efforts you've put in that culminates in a really amazing show. And then from that show, I guess, growing that band to a platinum selling band in Australia and New Zealand, and then selling out our own self-promoted tours, which I felt was really important to get a great understanding of the industry we work in.
Great, Nobu.
Hi, I'm Nobu Nakatake from SMEJ, Sony Music Entertainment Japan. I've been working for the music labels all time since I graduated university, and such as the promotion for domestic artists and A&R marketing for international repertoires, artists, and a digital business. And my most recent pivotal moment is 4 years ago. I established the dedicating international marketing team for J-pop, the local artist. And since then, we had a great hits like Yoasobi and Creepy Nuts, Brim Bam Bam Boom. So, the past April, I moved into the headquarters, SMEJ headquarters office. My first time work for non-music labels and looking after the global strategy for all the vertical of SMEJ, the global business. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you guys so much. Ryan, let's start with you. I don't think people are very familiar with what publishing companies can offer So what are the different services that you offer?
Yeah, so publishing is concerned with the copyrights. I work with songwriters, the people behind the records, and we pretty much have 4 key strands to what we do as publishers. There's administration, which is registering your songs, sync, which is exploiting the music and getting it placed in media, so TV, films, video games, etc., licensing. We have copyright protection, so making sure no one rips off your music, samples it, or does naughty things with it. And creative, A&R, so it's helping you as a songwriter develop your career, whether that's putting you or helping get you into songwriting sessions, pitching your music to other artists for them to record it, and trying to help you become a better songwriter and a more sort of a bigger name, a bigger brand within the international music community. So that's the...
No, it's great. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of think of publishing as a very passive thing, so it's really great to hear that there's a lot of proactive ways
Yeah, we're more than
that
just
you
a
guys
bank.
work.
More than just a bank. Well, the good publishers are more than just a bank. A lot of publishers will just give you money and you'll never hear from them again. Well, that's the accusation from managers and, well, many people.
Well, speaking of managers, I think the big thing that we're trying to do as well at this conference is really showcase and highlight that our industry is much broader than people realize, and there's a lot of different roles in it. So who are some of the key people within the industry that you engage with mostly?
So on a day-to-day basis, my background's in A&R, so my focus has always been on working with the songwriters in the creative sense. So every day I'm talking to my songwriters, I'm talking to their managers if they have them. I'm talking to record labels and managers of artists and maybe artists themselves, discussing what music they're looking for, and seeing how I can essentially plug my songwriters and their songs to those artist projects. Essentially, it's a sort of a sales job, but I guess as an A&R, you're the conduit between the creativity and the songs being written and the kind of alchemy of your songwriter and what their skills are and their personality and temperament is like, and placing them with like-minded people in writing sessions, and where does that session happen, booking the studios. You can get very kind of into the basics day-to-day of that, through to taking the song that comes from that session and looking for the artist project, whether that's in the UK, America, Korea, anywhere, and trying to place that song with an artist.
Wonderful, thank you. Ben, you mentioned Mushroom Group and many verticals. Can you please elaborate? Like, what are the different verticals that you guys cover under Mushroom? And what does each of them do?
For sure. So I think the easiest way to break it down is into the 6 verticals, where it's the rights management, music labels and publishing and neighbouring rights. That's looking after essentially what Ryan was just speaking about. We've got the brand partnerships division, which I work heavily in. That's looking after and representing artists, music festivals, concerts, brands for their creative purposes. We've got the creative agency that helps fulfill those partnerships. We've also got talent representation, so management, but that talent representation now extends to influencers and content creators, so non-musical talent as well. And then we've got the merchandise company and, what am I missing? Let me see.
Management?
Management,
Distribution?
yes. Content creative, and of course live entertainment, touring.
Oh, yes.
That's the big
one.
one. I guess.
That's a big one.
Should have said that first.
And they also have different brands and different names that cover different areas of the business, but do they actually work together? And if so, how?
So what we want to do at Mushroom, and the most important thing that we want to do, is retain as much revenue within the company as possible. And we find this is working really well because if we're working on one campaign, let's say, for example, a brand partnership with X brand, and it needs a specific skill set, we can pull that skill from each company. Or if we're working on an event that needs an artist, we always want to put our own represented artists first. So we're really retaining that revenue within Mushroom as much as possible. I think the number one thing is being surrounded by a team of very skilled people with a very nuanced skill set that we can really lean on. And by doing that, and there's probably a lot of people in this room that are in the same position, we're offering our skills that are very music and culture specific, and companies with brand partnerships look to us on how to connect with that audience, whether it be through the touring that we're doing, the music that we're releasing, the artists that we manage, the content creators that we manage. We can use these audiences to speak into those communities that we wouldn't have otherwise had access to as a generalized content agency.
Wonderful. Sounds exciting.
Very exciting.
And Nobu, what about you? You also mentioned that Sony Music Japan has multiple verticals. Can you elaborate on and explain some of those, please?
Of course. So Sony Music Entertainment, we have music on our company name. That is pretty confusing because Sony Music Entertainment Japan is not covering the music sector, but consists of 3 business segments. One is, of course, the artist and the management business segment, which is covering music publishing, label, artist management, brand partnership, etc. And the second one is the visual and IP character business. So we have the anime studio Aniplex and the IP character management and the marketing company, which have the licensing, the rights of the Peanuts or Tank Engine Thomas, global famous IP, plus the local created IP characters as well. And also we have the music channels, and the third one is entertainment business solution, which is covering, it has the operating companies of the live entertainment business, concert ticketing, live venue business. We have the 10 concert venues under the brand name ZEP in Japan, Taipei, and Kuala Lumpur. And we have the book publishing and magazine publishing business, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, in the center of the IP, covering the 360 business of the vertical.
I love that. The name of the game is diversification, I think, right? Try to keep your eggs in multiple baskets.
Right.
And Ryan, going back to you for a minute, how do content owners properly monetize their content? Because I feel like a lot of people are leaving a lot of money on the table. So what advice do you have for Korean content owners specifically on how they make sure that they're properly collecting globally?
Content or music?
Music content.
Music. Okay, right. I guess the main avenue from a music perspective is if outside of placing your music with an artist to record and release, is looking at the sync market. Like I say, outside of me placing songs with an artist, we have a sync team in London, but we're part of a bigger administration company which has sync teams worldwide, looking to exploit that music, and by exploit mean earn money from it and generate income for our songwriters. So in the practical sense, that is those people, in the same way that I have a network of contacts within the record labels and managers and artists, they will have a network of contacts in the media world looking to license music into their projects. So their day-to-day job is reaching out to their contacts and finding out what projects they're working on, what music they're looking for, genre-specific, mood, theme, etc., etc. And then our team pitching our music for those projects, and then if they get a bite, then negotiating a deal, a sync licensing deal for that. And sometimes they can be incredibly lucrative, sort of into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. For top tier artists, it could be into the millions.
Yeah, I mean, so sync licensing is really a very exciting topic, and I definitely want to dive into that later because it works so differently in different global markets than it does here. But just kind of going back to the basics that you were talking about, like just the basic administration, I feel like a lot of people are missing out on that piece, you know, not really realizing that there's a lot of different avenues that the content that they're naturally putting out on Spotify, et cetera, can be monetized in different ways, or is already monetizing.
Yeah, so there's, you can release music in the world, whether it's on a CD or digitally. Whether you have a record label or not, you can go through a distribution channel. It's pretty easy to do that now these days, and one of those companies will collect the mechanical income for you and pay you your fee on the master. But there's also the copyright income, which you essentially need a publisher to collect for you. So you have a writer's performance share, which you can collect going through a rights collection society. In the UK, we have PRS. Over here, it's Comca. And like in the States, there's 3 or 4. So you can sign up to one of those as a writer and collect that. But I'm not sure if it works the same here as it does in the UK. But in the UK, you have half of your performance share is collected on your behalf by your Comca or PRS, and then the other half is collected by your publisher or a publisher member of that society. So if you're not with a publisher, there's at least 50% of that income just sitting there. Essentially will go to a major publisher at the end of the day, because that's how the system's set up.
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of highlight this, especially if people are writing songs for other people. You know, if there's people in the room that are writing songs for other people, because a lot of the deals here are buyout deals, and they don't realize that beyond the buyout, there's actually revenue on the table to be collected for them. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, if you've got a record which comes out and takes off, it becomes viral. It might not happen immediately. It might happen 6 months later through TikTok or whatever. There's money there, potentially big money there to collect. So
Register.
Yeah, it's important to
everybody go find Ryan at the end of this. Is basically
all of that stuff done.
Basically it. And then brands, very exciting, very. Everybody's kind of looking at brands, but it's very mystifying. Like, how do you actually engage with brands? So, what type of content is really thriving right now in the brand space? What kind of content are brands looking for right now? Is it genre-based? Is it location-based?
For sure. So I think if we think about the world we're living in right now, everything is so algorithmic. Once you're in that algorithm, as a music fan, you're pretty much stuck in it. And it's really hard to access those fans without really talking to them in those communities that they exist in. And the one exciting thing is, artists own those communities. Their IP is those communities. If a brand wants to speak to those fans, where they exist, where they live, where they breathe, we can really talk to them through musicians, through bands, through influencers. And that's something where marketers, brands now are really honing in on because of this, this algorithm that's forcing people into that, funnel they exist in, and it's quite hard to get out of, whether it be a genre-based community, like a techno or an electronic-based community, or fans of an artist, so, a specific K-pop band or a specific hip-hop act. They all want to talk to younger audiences year on year, and the way we do that is we, go beyond just the traditional ambassador, which might be holding a drink in front of your face and then that's done. We're actually looking at other opportunities now where it might be brand-led pre-sales for a tour, which drives transactions for the brand, and it offers, a really, really nice experience for the ticket buyers and the fans, or it might be money can't buy experiences. So a brand might, pay an activation fee, and they'll get the opportunity to build out a competition which will drive awareness and reach through this, this artist that has this connection, this deeply engaged connection with their community. And when you put two and two together, you're creating really great, brand synergy with that artist and with the fans and with the brand. So I think they're looking for that engaged audience, and they're looking for more than just product placement now. They're looking for activation through technology.
It's funny because, they want it to be kind of like an organic feel, right? Like, which is kind of counterintuitive to a brand relationship. So, and I think a lot of artists are very hesitant to work with brands because they are concerned about the creative output, right? So you've done some amazing campaigns with artists that don't typically do a lot of stuff with brands. So how do you work with brands and artists to keep their creative visions aligned? Or pure, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having that organic feel to the campaign is so important, because if it looks fake, it's going to, one, ruin your reach forever, and two, it's just not going to deliver the brand the results they want either. So I think finding agencies, finding representation, finding management who know their way around a brand deal and have the conversations up front with the brands or the agencies and say, you want, a certain degree of creative control, that is super important. And it's important to always make sure that your tone of voice, the way you speak on social media, is reflected in that campaign. And I think brands that are doing this really well are the ones that are listening to their younger, generations within the company, because they see this is moving the needle. This is, creating change in their campaigns. It might be a viral moment, for example, with a product, or it might be looking at the artist's release timeline or touring timeline and looking at how you can embed this brand partnership to create a really mutually beneficial partnership. So I spoke about pre-sales before. That's one way to, increase the revenue of a tour without any overheads. And it fits really nicely into a tour plan as well. I think with an album release or a single release, you can really leverage the brand's audiences as well to build on your own audience. So you might have an Instagram follower, base of 50,000 people. The brand might have 250,000 people. It's free marketing in my eyes, if you do it correctly.
I love that. And basically, it really just comes down to a conversation, right? Like, don't be afraid to push back if it's something you're uncomfortable doing. And, keep that dialogue open. It's not like as transactional as people think that it might be.
Yeah, what I've found really helpful right now is if you're interested in getting into this space, brands are looking to artists that have previous experience because they want to be able to trust that you can deliver their message in a good way, in an authentic way. So the bands that we work with quite frequently that have great success are the ones with previous runs on the board, so the ones that have done campaigns in the past. And I say to the younger managers and the younger artists out there, if this is something you want to get into, it's always important to start off small. It might be a friend's clothing label. It might be doing an acoustic set in a local cafe, just to show that you can bring, these two worlds together in a really nuanced and, delicate way without making it look fake and yucky.
So on that point, something that we do on the publishing side is we actually try and, or on occasion, we reverse engineer that situation, because we have songwriters going, I want to write for sync, which is great, let's go. So our sync team will give them a kind of a cheat sheet of, okay, these are the key themes, moods, lyrics, words that always come up in briefs. So if you want to have success, like here's like a cheat code. And so they go away, they write some music, and then like you might get something great come out of it. Okay, now we need to brand it. And it's actually creating an artist project. And it's actually, there's quite a few songwriters doing this now, and like, you know, you wouldn't know it, but they're really, really successful. They've written some of the biggest hits out there. And they have this secret sync project under a different brand name. It's on Spotify, and it's got a logo or an image or something. But it's there to exist as this kind of online presence, so that when the music gets played in an ad or in a movie or something, people can Shazam it or whatever and go online and find it and discover this new artist, and it's a real thing. But brands are asking for that because they want it to be real. They don't want it. They don't want it to be written for sync, because that is the yucky thing. Like,
And royalty-free music, yucky also.
boo. Yeah.
And I'm sure Ryan will love to hear this. If you're entering in a brand deal, always remember your licensing and sync rights, because you can really open up extra revenue by offering your music for the campaign as well. So the soundtrack to the ad. And you know, you might start off with a smaller budget, but it will increase greatly as you build that trust with brands, and the budgets increase as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's the theme of all of this is really make sure you're working with the right people who can make sure that your rights are really protected. Otherwise, you can be doing all this work and it's going for nothing, right? And Nobu, I wanted to go back to you because J-pop kind of was the OG of this fandom and community and really like super fan concept, right? So what are the most lucrative and exciting ways that Sony Music Japan artists are engaging directly with their fans and selling directly to their fans?
Right. We started the superfan business as K-pop, you know, the artists and then the management office is running. Superfan business is lucrative, and you know, with them making that strong connection with the fans. So upselling the IP product, the music, not only through the subscription, but the packaging with the, you know, the trading cards or the exclusive content. And sometimes we added the ticket for the handshake meet and greet session.
The golden ticket, right?
Golden ticket.
Which unfortunately cannot happen in a lot of Western music markets because of
Yeah,
the whole
and
family.
also we have to carefully run it with the ethical, you know, the conduct, because then sometimes in the regular company is pushing too hard to the young, you know, the audience and consumers to sell them the highest price setting products. We have to carefully do that with the, you know, ethical code, of course, but it's a part of the superfan business. Also, we're running the monetized fan club with the mobile app basis. So it's a recurring business. You know, $2, $3, $4, the monthly fees, and we provide an exclusive content as well as the biggest incentive for that monetizing the fan club is the concert ticket. So it's a pre-sale, and that's a big motivation. And you know, recurring business for the fun, in a fun community, it's another emerging the business revenue stream as well.
Yeah, and you know, I think beyond just the music, there's other IP around an artist that you can sell, right? Japan does merchandise so well. You know, when I go to festivals, like Summer Sonic, the merch goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
And now there's even online merchandise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
Right.
do. We have the D2C, the online, the consumer, the merchandise business. And we have the merchandising, the producing, and distribution company within the SMEJ group. I just said that the Japanese merch and the Korean, you know, K-pop merches as well, more diversified items with lovely designs, which is a bit different from particularly the American artist merchandise. So we carefully, plan, design the product and the design as well. Yeah.
It's a great opportunity also to showcase your style, right? Like beyond
What?
your own style and your vibe
Styles.
of your artist, right? Like, and showcase the things that you love, like beyond just a t-shirt and a tote bag.
Starting to come in more in the UK as well. Labels are really cottoning on to like different versions of the same album, different packaging,
Different colors of vinyls or
different colors
right?
of vinyls. Yeah, I mean, we worked with a band called Shed 7, and who were big in the 1990s. They were around at the same time as Oasis and Blur, and they had like 10 or 15 top 10 singles at the time. So they were a proper band. Never had a #1 album. Anyway, they reformed a couple of years ago. They came back. They signed to our record label last year, and they released a new album, their first new album in 5 years, and it went straight to #1 the first week of this year. Their first ever #1, and I think they held the world record as like the longest time between their debut album and reaching #1.
That's really encouraging, actually.
which is-
longevity, right?
Yeah, which is great. But it was like our record label did an amazing job at mobilizing the fan base and re-engaging with them. Sort of, the band had been active and touring a little bit, but they hadn't released anything that a lot of people wanted to buy for a long time. But it was a good record, but a number of different versions of the album, different packaging, lots of meet and greets, like underplay shows, lots and lots of hard physical work by the band, touring, press, etc., etc. But just goes to show that it really does work. And going back to what you were saying, Nobu, about J-pop and K-pop and what happens over here in terms of the marketing and the activations and engagement with the fandom, I think that's an amazing business model, and it obviously works. And I think in the UK and America, I think we should be doing more of it. I think we're still too obsessed with chart positions, and that really doesn't mean anything anymore, because you can be while it's nice to be at #1, you're often #1 for like, you're either #1 for 1 week and then you disappear, or you're #1 for like half the year and no one can move you because you're Sabrina Carpenter or something, so.
And to your point, the merchandise can actually drive the #1, right? Sorry, no, but were you?
Yeah, but also, I would like to say that, apart from the diversifies of the physical product, the variants, but U.S. and the European artists took a lead on a VIP ticket. It's upselling, the concert, ticketing price, and Japanese artists is reluctant to do that.
This is why we like to go to shows in Japan. On our ticket prices.
But now, more artists are learning the scheme and want to try, give a shot the VIP ticket system like that. But absolutely, that's another upselling revenue ways from the U.S. and the European artists.
Yeah, and the VIP oftentimes is bundling with merch or bundling with something exclusive, right? It doesn't have to be
the physical packaging as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, I wanted to dive into sync a little bit more, just because in Korea they have blanket license, and I feel like there's not enough emphasis put on the global opportunities for monetization and reach through sync. So can you kind of explain a little bit what a typical deal structure would look like in, say, like the US, for example, because I feel like the US is the most valuable sync market in the world.
Yeah, right. So where do we start? So I'll give you an example. We had a songwriter who delivered us a demo recording, and it was a quite catchy, upbeat tune, very cliched lyrics. To be honest, I kind of dismissed it because I was like, well, no artist is going to release that because it's way too cliche. But our sync team took it and they pitched it out to Samsung, actually, and it got placed on like an online ad for Christmas. It was like a 10-second advert that ran for like a couple of weeks over the Christmas period, but the deal was for $80,000. And my songwriter had maybe 25% of the publishing. So it was a nice little payday for her out of a song which essentially was, seemed a bit of a throwaway to me. So that was a lesson for me. But in terms of how that deal worked and how sync deals work, like I said before, our sync team will pitch a song to a music supervisor or an agent or maybe direct to a brand. They'll say, yes, we like this song, we want to use it in our advert, movie, video game. And then there'll be a licensing agreement drawn up and negotiated. And generally there is a fee for the usage, and there's a fee for the recording and a fee for the copyright for the song. And they're controlled under a protocol, I suppose, called Most Favored Nations. So they're usually always the same. If the recording side negotiate $100,000, then the publishing should also get $100,000. And then you'll have the other kind of terms of like what's the duration of the agreement, what media is it going to cover, are there any escalations if they want to extend the campaign, or what territory does it cover, and if they extend the territory. So there'll be all these different terms in that agreement. And then it's, unlike releasing a record and waiting for the royalties to come in, it's a cash deal. So you sign the agreement and you send your invoice and you get the money in. So that it's quite good for us as a business.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you kind of pointed out the different elements of the agreement as well. And I think it's really important to clarify that all of this is negotiable, right? Whenever any of this stuff comes your way, you have the ability to push back. And the things to be mindful of is exclusivity as well, right? So like, would you say like a good rule of thumb is like, the more they're asking for, the higher the price? Like,
yeah,
in terms of length, reach?
Yeah, exactly. So some companies will use a rate card system, and others will work on a case-by-case basis. And when I worked at Warner Chappell, I know at that time they used the rate card system, and I was signing bands that were doing stuff but were still developing, and they would get approached to use their music in an ad or something, and they would go, oh, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, we can give you 10 grand. And from me as a young A&R trying to break a band, I'd be like, great, that's good exposure and it's connection to a cool brand or something, and this is going to open other doors for them. But the sync team were like, no, if we agree to that, then we have to, that sets a precedent, and we have to agree to 10,000 for the next band, or it devalues our catalog to some degree, which I can understand that rationale. But working at an independent now, where if someone wants to give us money, we'll take it. No, it's more. There's more negotiation involved. We want our artists and our songwriters to make money and get that exposure. But yeah, generally, if someone comes to us and says, or for instance, that deal was like, it's this online advert and it's only for 2 weeks over Christmas and it's geo-locked to Europe, but if we want to extend that to US, then that's an extra X amount of money, or if we want to extend that to Asia or whatever, yeah. So you can add in those trigger payments.
That's great, good to know. Ben, for artists and labels and managers who are really keen to start working with brands and get involved with this business, how do they begin? Like, where do they go? Who do they look for, assuming they don't have a representative like yourself, like a brand partnerships person within their company that they're working with? Are there conferences? Are there online platforms?
For sure. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier that, you really need to show a passion for the brands that you want to be representing, if that's the angle you want to take. If you get to that, upper level of your career where you're having a really strong growth trajectory, you're probably in a really good position to be able to say no to brand offers that come in. And saying no can sometimes be the best answer, because that will increase the value of your brand partnership. I think scarcity is very important when taking on brand partnerships. You don't want to say yes to too many things, otherwise half your social feed is sponsored posts and half of it is organic posts. And look, It's not really what you want to do as an artist. So I think saying yes to the right campaigns is what you want to do. You want to be looking at the deliverables of that campaign and what the brand wants to achieve. So if they want to achieve reach or awareness or engagement, you should base the deliverables, the amount of social posts that you have to do, on their goals and the KPIs for that campaign. As for how to get to that level, it really does come down to showing your confidence within this kind of brand partnerships ecosystem. So how you present well on socials and making sure that they can trust you as an artist to deliver that message. So as mentioned earlier, doing the smaller collaborations with your friends that own clothing labels and cafes and drinks brands and so on. And it might be a small fee to start off with, but that will quickly build over time as your audience grows, as your community grows, and as your connection to your fans grow as well. And I think the one thing we look at from a content creator or an artist point of view is how good quality their content is. So if they're just posting up a photo of them in the studio every 4 weeks, it's not really going to cut it. But if we can see they're making a really great effort to talk to their fans in that nuanced way, that's what we're going to look for, because we can see they have that connection at a greater level.
And do you have an example of an artist that you feel like has done this really, really well, like worked with a brand really well?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, specific artists. I think the artists that I see that do this really well, they pull, they pour their heart and soul out into their social media and only say yes to the right campaigns that really fit into their ideology. There's an artist that we're working with at the moment and who has a massive love for a certain fast food chain, loves it, and that fast food chain has identified that, and it's created essentially a partnership out of nothing that otherwise wouldn't have existed. I've seen many artists in the past that, they've gone out of their way to just post a story or two with a product that they might love, and from that, they've created a connection there as well. But they might do it in a fun or cheeky way, not too over the top, and that really gives us a platform to take to the brand and say, hey, this artist is posting about you. How about we make this official?
Makes sense, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to love what you're selling, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to believe in what you're selling. As a manager, you need to believe in your artist. As an artist, you need to believe in your music. As a brand partnerships agency, we need to believe in the brand and the product as well.
Makes sense. Amazing. Nobu, I wanted to dive into anime a little bit because
Sure.
obviously it's a massive industry, but outside of Japan, there's a lot of questions about how it all operates. So in anime, how much of the content is original content versus licensed content, for example?
For Sunny, it's a confidential. I'm sorry. Seriously.
Generally, do they look for original content, or are they open to licensing content with anime?
Well, basically, Sony Music has the Aniplex, the anime studio, but we have to work with the book publisher because most of the anime is coming from the comic manga published stories. So we are not working by ourselves, but partnering with the music, the book publishers like Shueisha, Shogakukan, Kodansha, and other the publishers, and they're working together to get the story license and make an anime with the Aniplex studio. So that's how it works.
And because a lot of these anime artists are musical artists as well, right? And they kind of stand alone as musical artists, right? So which comes first? Is it like the anime that boosts the artist, or is it the art?
Yeah, the story comes first. And so the anime studio starting the project. Hey, this is the story, and this is the storyboard, and this is the characters, etc., etc. So when it comes to picking the music, of course, the creative comes first. And also, very important thing is that the artist should understand, and the writer of the song should understand what the the anime story is. Otherwise, you can't write, sing, perform the appropriate songs, can't resonate with the viewers. Many of the people right now in the industry believes that, hey, we get the anime opening and ending theme, and it's a promising hit single, but it wouldn't be. Because nowadays, most of the animation is watched through the OTT, like Crunchyroll or Netflix, different from the TV era. Which means that most of the viewers are skipping the opening and the ending segment of the series of the anime. 10 episodes or 26 episodes. They don't watch every single story's opening and the ending theme.
You're right, you skip intro.
Right?
Yeah.
Intro, right? So we have to creatively, smartly work on it. For instance, Creepy Nuts, Brim Bam Bam Boom was the feature on the anime title, the Mashu. So the creative point of view, the Mashu producer created the ending segment, every different the visual segments, and a
To
featured
engage
song,
them to watch, yeah.
and then let the each characters of the anime dance to the song. So to avoid skipping by the viewers.
Clever.
Or the creatively, YOASOBI, the latest hit single Idol, was featured for Oshinoko, the anime. And the member and the writer and the producer Ayase of the YOASOBI, he really loves that story, watched the anime, then read the script, and precisely understand what the story is and what the feeling of the character is, and resonate and connect with the character, and wrote the lyrics, which was a great reaction from the viewers, particularly the core fans of that story. The core fans of the anime, it's so super, focused on the big love with the anime. So just, hey, it's a great music. Okay, writing the song. Okay, this is the title. Okay, features the anime title, the character, and the lyrics right away, and the feature. It wouldn't work.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like similar to artists working with brands, artists working with anime, you've got to love the product to really be able to integrate with it well. And I'm glad you mentioned YOASOBI because they're a great example of an artist that's reached global success, kind of through this format, but so much beyond that. Right?
Well, different from K-pop, J-pop doesn't represent the specific music genre. Each artist and songs of J-pop are different and distinct. And among them, particularly YOASOBI's song is very distinct. Nothing like the music. And because the writer and the producer, the Ayase, he's creating music on a desktop and a Vocaloid, which makes human voice sing that song perfectly because it's hitting a high note down, going down to the bottom of the up and down note. It's very difficult for the human vocal. But Ikura, the singer or the YOASOBI, can perfectly perform that song. That distinct and dynamic flow of the notes that makes the YOASOBI different, as well as the lyrics.
And it's interesting as well because, you think of anime just as a purely online format, but YOASOBI is a really great example of how that online format can create incredible offline opportunities for an artist.
Yeah,
right?
nowadays they're touring worldwide, selling out
and
concerts and performed at Coachella, and pretty busy. And next year, the year 2025, they're planning the global tour as well. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we're almost out of time. I can't believe that. It went by so fast, but we did manage to cover, I think, a lot of really interesting ways for artists and creators to monetize outside of the traditional selling music and performing live formats. I did want to just, with the last 2 minutes, see if there was any audience questions from anybody here. Do we have any questions from the audience? You can raise your hand. All right, no questions from the audience. So Ryan, I don't think I even asked you this. What's an example of an artist that you've worked with, whether it's a songwriter or licensed, sync deal that has helped kind of propel an artist globally?
Globally, I'm not sure.
Because I feel like sync in America like really has helped propel a lot of independent artists. You know, like you've got like the 1, 2, 3 Feist Apple kind of trend.
I mean, I guess over the course of history, there's a number of like key TV ads that have been international campaigns which have taken a band from wherever they might be to a worldwide audience very, very quickly. I don't think I've got any examples of anyone I've worked with that's happened to, unfortunately. But I mean, one example I can give you, just of how music can, or writing songs can open up a career for you, is one of the songwriters I've worked with actually got his start. He was in a band, but he actually got his start as a songwriter, a commercial writer, writing for WWE wrestlers.
Wow.
Which is pretty random. But he wrote the entrance theme music for a number of wrestlers, and I was going to get him to do one for me today, but he didn't have time. But
how cool is that? That's a great example.
It's pretty random, isn't it? And it's because his friend was a wrestler. He was in his band, and his friend kind of went up through the ranks and got to WWE, and so he did all his intro music, and then that word of mouth spread, and so he got to do others. So he's got this whole catalogue of music locked in with WWE.
You could do that with baseball as well, right? Like if you feel like baseball, people like walk onto the pitch with different
arts
things.
Players, snooker.
Talk to you later on to see if I can get some like conference music out of it, panel music.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing all of your valuable insights and information. I hope you all enjoyed that session. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back for the workshop next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.